Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. As always, I'm your humble host, Ted Glover. And also, as always, with me are my humble co-hosts. Above me to my upper right, my weekly co-host for Vikings Report with Drew and Ted and Chris, Drew Bunning. And to my upper left, our other co-host for Vikings Report with Drew and Ted and Chris would be Chris. Gentlemen, I cut my fishing trip short. I really didn't. I did not cut my fishing trip short. We came back. I came back exactly on time as I was supposed to because the Minnesota Vikings have extended Justin Jefferson. That is why we went live.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us here had any doubt as to that, if that was going to happen or not. But gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to yet another live hit for Vikings Report Rewind. Chris, how you doing?
I am doing outstanding. Seeing that news drop this morning was a thing of beauty, man. I mean, like you said, I think we all knew it was coming eventually, but we didn't know when it was finally going to hit. But I'm happy that it did, so we don't have to go through another off season of wondering when the Vikings are going to finally do Justin Jefferson's deal, because it's done, and he's with the team through 2028 now. So that's pretty great.
Drew, before you say hello, I want to address the elephant in the room.
What's the elephant
behind you that says Dahmer went to Ohio State? He may have, but he got kicked out. He did not get a degree. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, not only went to the University of Michigan, he got an advanced degree and taught there. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. How you doing, Drewster?
Dahmer and the Unabomber. Man, we got some quality guys coming out of our school.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of, isn't it, for both of us?
Welcome, everybody. And thank you for joining us on this kind of special edition live show that we put together tonight. We didn't want to wait till Saturday to talk about JJ's extension on the money end of things. We got a lot to go over tonight, but it seems like one step further, one step closer to getting where we need to go. And that was the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning. Was the first thing I saw on the computer, and I thought, man, that's pretty excellent. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. And before we get into this, real quick, first of all, welcome to the show. We've got a lot of people in the chat room already. As always, we're going to give away a prize or two. At the end of the show, Toonses, who's in the background, as always, somewhere making sure this show can even happen, is going to spin the Toonses Wheel of Destiny. All you have to do to be eligible to win a prize is just make a comment, and you are entered to win. At the end of the show, we'll spin the wheel, and whoever wins, or whoever name lands the wheel lands on is our prize winner. And if you make a comment that is particularly funny or insightful or sarcastic, we just may make an on the spot prize award right then and there, except for Tollison. Aaron Tollison, you pointed out the Dahmer shirt. Whatever prizes you won, you need to return right now. But
good man,
whatever.
Good man, Anthony. Anthony pointing out that T-shirt.
Yeah. All right. So with that out of the way, we kind of knew this was gonna happen. I don't think anybody thought the Justin Jefferson extension wasn't going to happen, except maybe modern day yellow journalist and muckraker Mike Florio. Chris,
actually, now that you bring that up, I have thoughts on this.
Go. Think away.
We've been hearing every idiotic Justin Jefferson trade rumor, whatever, like literally just last week, all of the really smart football people were pushing this stupid thing where the Vikings were going to move up on draft night and take Malik Neighbors of all people. And then once they drafted Malik Neighbors, they were going to turn around and they were going to trade Justin Jefferson for draft picks, and they were going to do this. Irony, thy name is Schefter, because one of the tweets that he put out this morning after the news was announced was, let's see here, there were multiple teams this offseason that inquired about trading for Justin Jefferson per league sources. The Vikings let each one of them know in no uncertain terms that they had zero intention of trading Jefferson, and the conversations ended right then and there.
Huh.
So, so you a-holes, for lack of a better descriptor, have been throwing whatever stupid Justin Jefferson trade rumor that you could fabricate and throw out there for, I'd say, the last 3 months, but I mean, this even goes back to last season when something didn't get done, and you knew the Vikings had no intention of trading the guy. The Vikings made it clear they weren't going to trade him, and like this whole time you've been sitting there going, yeah, they're totally going to trade Justin Jefferson because he's unhappy with this or that or the other thing. I mean, now I might just be like blogger trash or whatever, but I mean, I'm not actively out here like making stuff up or anything like that, like the really smart types are. So that's annoyed the crap out of me all day since the extension got announced. I just had to get that out there.
Don't sell yourself short, Chris. You're formerly credentialed blogger trash. Let's not kid ourselves.
I am. I'm upper tier blogger trash at least.
Can't we round up all these jackwagons who ruined the offseason? It's getting bad. This is the worst offseason. It's getting worse and worse and worse. This season, the breaking news, all this. Look at the information I have. It's just, I'm so glad I don't listen to any of that shit anymore. I don't. Why do they do it? And another thing, like I said, can't we round them up and send them away or Ted or something? It's so annoying. It's so freaking annoying. I'm down to like 5-6 people I listen to now. Dave Stefano, Darren Campbell, Rhino. You know what? You guys, I listen to you too, but I don't listen to any of that stuff anymore. But it's getting bad.
So I put this tweet out a little bit earlier today, or put this X out, whatever we're calling that social media platform now. Let's just kind of recap this whole Justin Jefferson offseason. Offseason trade rumors, like Chris said, BS. Draft day trade up for Malik Neighbors coupled with the Justin Jefferson trade. Utter BS. I laughed when I heard that. I didn't believe that one for 1 second. Justin Jefferson was unhappy and wanted out. BS. What was another one? Oh, he was waiting to find out what the Vikings quarterback situation was going to be before he decided whether he wanted to stay or not. BS. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was in over his head, didn't know what he was doing, didn't know how to negotiate a contract. Complete and total BS. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. I'm glad that we decided a long time ago on this show not to entertain those BS rumors and just stick to what actually is. And I'm glad Justin Jefferson is in the fold. And I want to say this, and I'll let you guys comment, because I think this kind of really goes my main reason why I thought there was no way the Vikings were going to ever trade Justin Jefferson. When the Vikings made the decision to move on from Kirk Cousins last year and go with a quarterback of the future, and that obviously ended up being J.J. McCarthy. By the way, show him your J.J. McCarthy jersey, Drew.
Here we go. Newest jersey in Viking Manor championship on the way. You got a shot of that?
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, my boy, my Michigan guy that goes to my New Jersey, Ted.
But when the Vikings just made a conscious decision to move on from Kirk Cousins, and I would argue they did that in part because they knew they were going to have to sign Justin Jefferson to this kind of money, and go with the quarterback of the future. If you and we said this on this show a long time ago, more than once, that if you want to successfully develop your quarterback of the future, or give him a chance to succeed, Justin Jefferson had to be a key part of this offense moving forward. I mean, now with Jefferson signed, there's no guarantee that J.J. McCarthy will be good or even great. But the chances of him being good or great are a whole hell of a lot less without Justin Jefferson than they are with Justin Jefferson. And that's why I thought it made absolutely no sense getting rid of Jefferson and that stupid, well, we'll trade up for 5 and then we'll draft Malik Neighbors. Look,
come on.
I don't like the word retarded, but that was just one of the most retarded things I have ever heard in my entire life. And I'm a pretty stupid human being, and I hang around a lot of dumb people.
How do all those things get any legs, Ted? How do they gain legs? Because that's what gets me most. Is it people do
like
it to get
Florio.
attention?
That's why. Yeah, people like Mike Florio. I mean, I think Mike Florio. I literally think Mike Florio made that one up. The Malik Neighbors. I do. I truly do.
Somebody completely made it up. I mean, I think ESPN might have had something about me. It wasn't Kevin Seifert from ESPN, because Seifert is one of the solid dudes out there.
He is. Yep.
He's been around the team for a long time, so he's one of the guys you can trust with this sort of stuff. But yeah, I have no idea. Like you're gonna trade up for like a third wide receiver when you have like no viable long-term option at quarterback. It just did. If you're gonna make these things up, they have to have at least a little bit of plausibility or feasibility to them. And the whole Malik Neighbors thing just had nothing at all ever.
None, zero. So Drew, there were a couple times in this offseason you were getting kind of worried that the Jefferson deal hadn't been done yet. You still worried? You okay now?
Yeah. Something tells me I should have waited till the beginning of June, but I might have worried because it was that important. That important to the future of the team and Justin Jefferson. To be quite honest, I am surprised with the amount of bad feedback I've heard today from this. I'm kind of shocked because if you look at football through a reasonable lens, maybe that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you look at football through a reasonable lens, you'll notice that the last 10 or 15 years, running back is gone. It's a wide receiver league now. That's what it's all about. You got to have your top wideout, you got to almost have two top number one wideouts. That's what the league has turned into. That's why you see these new deals that have already been made in the offseason for this season.
Yes.
Devontae Smith, Ross St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, all this season. Those are all the deals that got done this season because wide receiver, that's the name of the game now. It is, guys. Back 20 years ago or in the 70s, it was all running back, running, and then the wide receivers were just like the extra, like fluff, the icing on top. But it was all a running league, and it was like that for many, many years. I'd say probably up to the last 15 years, maybe 10 years. But if you guys look at the top 10 receivers in the NFL this year, top 10 in yardage, 9 of them were on playoff teams. 9 of the 10. This is a wide receiver league.
I did not know that.
No, me neither.
That's what it's turning into. Well, we try to bring good info here, Ted.
That's really, I did not know that. I didn't know 9 of the top 10 wide receivers were on playoff teams.
It's a wide receiver league now. That's what's happened. The only one that wasn't was the Bears guy, the DJ Moore. He's the only one of the top guys who didn't make the playoffs.
And there's a reason, a couple of years ago we saw when Jacksonville dished out a ton of money to wide receivers. Everybody kind of thought the wide receiver market would kind of self-correct. And if anything, it's going the opposite direction. And you talked about guys that had signed contracts this year. Let's talk about a guy that now with Jefferson in the fold, probably the biggest receiver that hasn't is Jamar Chase.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
And Brandon Ayuk, although I don't think he's on the same level as those other two guys.
But he's still a very important piece of that 49ers offense.
Yep.
And when you look at let's contrast Jefferson's contract and signing with Jamar Chase and I the name escapes me, his number 2 guy in Cincinnati. T. Higgins. Look, Joe Burrow's now pulling in north of $50 million a year?
Yep.
Annual average per year contract. I would argue that the Bengals aren't going to be able to afford Burrow, Higgins, and Jamar Chase. And one of the reasons the Vikings moved on from Kirk is because they want to keep Jefferson. Now they'll be able to afford Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and Christian Darrisaw, who's going to be coming due. And you're going to have a guy like J.J. McCarthy, and he's going to have to pan out, or none of this is going to matter, obviously. But if McCarthy pans out on his rookie contract, you are going to have a really, really good and a really young football team. Think of the Bengals just a couple of years ago when they were going to the Super Bowl while Joe Burrow was still on his rookie contract. And it just seems to me that the Vikings finally, after so many years of doing the running it back thing and trying to keep all these older veterans, are finally building this team the right way, Drew.
Yeah, I think they are. And I think one of the problems with the Bengals was they didn't put the effort into the offensive line as they did their weapons. They went out and got all these offensive weapons, but Burrow's getting killed back there. The offensive line has been atrocious for them. They tried to address it, but it hasn't really come out the way they want. I think in today's football, you got to spread the wealth around. Although you need a quarterback, you need an edge rusher, and you need a top corner. Those are still the main three areas I think that matter out there. But I think the Vikings have taken a big step towards building the franchise that they want.
Yes.
It like man, we've been so long just like walking through molasses, Ted. It's been the Spielman and the Bradford and all this. The Vikings you have to do this to try to make a move. And if it doesn't work out, McCarthy doesn't work out, and JJ whatever, you regroup and you try it again. But the point is, you got to try stuff like this. You got to. Kansas City tried this. They're in pretty good shape right now. I mean, you got to try to, get that gold. What's that golden ring or something on the merry-go-round?
Columbus took a chance.
You got to take a chance. You got to take a chance. And the Vikings I think they're spending money wisely. I think the free agent moves were right where they want to be. I think this is where they wanted to be, out from all those contracts, Barr and all Kendricks. They want to be away from all that. And I think, I don't know. I'd like to hear some arguments about, is everybody in the chat rooms on board with the JJ thing? Or is there one guy wrote, I saw a post somewhere on Facebook. It wasn't in the Gallahorn. It wasn't in any good Viking groups, but it said, JJ is not worth it. The only person I'm giving money to is Randy Moss. Look at their numbers after 4 years, idiot. Come on, idiot.
He's got numbers better than Randy Moss after 4 years.
Come on.
Which is amazing to me.
People talk out of their bunghole sometimes, Ted, and I'm sick of it.
Chris, talking about numbers and contracts, you have, it was, I think the total contract for Justin Jefferson extension was 4 years, $140 million.
Yeah. And I think, I can't remember the exact amount of guarantee, but it was north of 100. So
yeah. And I think he's got 88 million coming due this year. You imagine when that number hits your bank account,
you're checking your direct deposit and you're like scrolling on your phone. Oh, 88 million.
I see I have ding. Oh, my bank just notified me I have a new deposit. After taxes, $67.4 million just hit my account. Oh, that's pretty nice.
Pablo Escobar money right there.
So on that subject, Alec Lewis from the Athletic, who's another one of the solid actual reporters out there, apparently with the way the extension is structured, Jefferson's cap hit for this year is going to be about $8.5 million, which is about $10 million less than it would have been if he had played on his fifth-year option. He was set to have a hit of about $18 million there. So as of now, and this is still with the cap projections being at about $260 million, even with this deal, the Vikings are still projected to have at least $54 million in cap space in 2025, $110 million in 2026, and like I said, that's without forecasting for an increase in the salary cap. If it goes up significantly, obviously the Vikings will have more, and you'll have to factor the Darisaw extension in there at some point, but that's not going to break the bank or anything early on. So the Vikings are sitting pretty for the next couple of years as far as cap space goes, it would appear.
They really are. For those of you that were not fans of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I just don't. The guy has fixed the Vikings salary cap issues. I think probably a year or two faster than I thought he could have.
Mm-hmm.
He got a JJ extension done, and they're still going to have entering entering free agency next year, they're going to have at least $60 million in cap space with Justin Jefferson signed, with probably Darisaw. Well, they're going to sign Darisaw, with TJ Hawkinson signed, with Jordan Addison under a rookie contract, with JJ McCarthy under a rookie contract, a very new young core group of guys. Man, this team is ready to go places. They just are, and people are thinking that, I saw a thing. Somebody, I think it was Pro Football Focus, maybe, thought the Vikings were going to be a 3-14 team. If anybody is laying those odds, take it. If you gamble, I don't, but if you gamble, lay that money down. Just lay it, because they're winning a hell of a lot more than 3 games.
I don't. How can anybody be mad at what he's done, Adolfo Mensa, since he's been here? It's just people that are just miserable all the time. They're not going to be happy about anything.
No.
Because, you got JJ McCarthy. He's your guy. He needs all the weapons he can get. And another thing, Ted, I don't like putting all this money into a receiver. I don't like putting all this money. I wouldn't give all this money to a receiver. Well, he's not just a receiver. He's a generational guy. He's a Jerry Rice or a Lynn Swann or a Calvin Johnson. He's like that. He's not just a receiver. And you know what? You can't just say people get big contracts and then they disappear. Cooper Kupp didn't.
I would argue.
Tyreek Hill got a big deal. He hasn't fallen off at all.
No.
Amari Cooper, he's done well. These guys. So it's not just say you give them a bunch of money and they fade out. That's a bunch of what's it called? Horse pucky?
Yeah. That's the word. That works.
I would argue that. And I'm not meaning any disrespect or trying to take anything away from those receivers you mentioned, but I would argue Justin Jefferson is more important to the Vikings than those guys are to their respective teams, because Justin Jefferson has become the face of the NFL in a lot of ways. We were talking about my grandson Grayson has become a huge Vikings fan, and Justin Jefferson is his favorite player. And look, I know millions of kids love Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, and I get it. But I think Jefferson's relationship with the Vikings is more important, because now you've got a rookie quarterback who he is going to help develop. And Doc Proto right here, you don't screw around with the face of the franchise, especially if it's a generational type dude.
That's
a prize right there.
That's a
absolutely
great comment by Doc Proto.
Because CeeDee Lamb's not the face of the franchise for the Cowboys. Jamar Chase is not the face of the franchise for the Bengals. Justin Jefferson right now is the face of the franchise for the Vikings. He may not be in a couple years, but he is right now. And if you were cheering for the Vikings through this miserable year, this past year, you tuned in to watch Justin Jefferson until he got hurt. And that's what if Jefferson had left, or if they had traded him, and the Vikings were smart enough to know this, I think, you were going to lose a lot of young fans you just created over the last 2 or 3 years with Jefferson.
And a lot of money in jerseys, a lot of, let's face it, there's a business end to this whole thing. I mean, it's marketing, it's business. You get rid of Jefferson, that just angers the fan base. He's a generational player. I'm surprised I even hear one bad comment about this whole signing. I've read quite a bit today, and I'm kind of shaking my head going, what the hell do you want to do? You can't, for every Jefferson, Ted, there's 1,000 of these other guys who just fade out.
Wilfred Hilger, put that comment back up. That's going to be a prize too. Everybody does the gritty now. Justin Jefferson, this is no joke. That's a national thing. The gritty. Everybody. My grandsons do the gritty because of Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's a valid point. Wilfred, get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report, Drew and Ted at gmail.com. I mean, Justin Jefferson is one of the big things in the NFL, and the Wilfs and Adolfo Mensa were smart enough to know that and kept him in the fold. And man, I love it.
They're never gonna trade him. They were never gonna trade him.
The last time we got together, we talked briefly about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have unfortunately since been eliminated from the NBA playoffs and whatnot.
Nice jinx we put on them, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. We effed that up quite significantly.
That's not my fault. That is not my fault.
But, I mean, for the Vikings to trade away Justin Jefferson, it would be the same as the Timberwolves saying, yeah, we don't need Anthony Edwards anymore. We're gonna trade Anthony Edwards away, and then we'll just draft the next Anthony Edwards. Because
Yeah, exactly.
There is no next Anthony Edwards. So it's like there is no next Justin Jefferson. It makes no sense to trade either one of those dudes away. People are so fascinated with the idea of picking up draft picks and seeing what those draft picks are nice. Draft picks are fun, but Justin Jefferson is also nice to have around. And I don't know how many times I went back and watched that video today of draft night in 2020 when they had the video the team put out of Spielman and Zimmer and the other front office guys waiting for the Eagles to make their pick, and they're like, "Oh, the Eagles got to take a wide receiver here, don't they?" And we'll see. Oh, Jalen Reagor. And then everybody just laughs, and they sprint to the podium and take Justin Jefferson with the next pick. That was so great. I will never get tired of seeing that video.
Ever.
I tell you one thing. The networks should be scrambling to get these NFC North games, because look at the NFC North teams. They are going to be in some shootouts, man. They are going to be the NFC North football games, divisional games, any team they're playing. All those teams in the NFC North, Ted, are going to light it up, and it's going to be good TV football. So, get ready.
There is one really good quarterback in the NFC North right now, and that is
Sam Darnold.
No, Sam Darnold.
Damn.
The kid in Detroit.
Goff.
Jared Goff. Thank you very much. I don't know what's going on with me tonight. But there are three young guns in the NFC North. Jordan Love may or may not be good. He had a very strong finish last year. But you got Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy. If those three guys pan out, the NFC North is going to be a sledgehammer of a division for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Look at the wide receivers in the NFC North. You can go through that and look at that, man.
Amon-Ra St. Brown for Detroit. You got JJ and Jordan Addison in Minnesota. You got Darnell Mooney and DJ Moore in Chicago.
Oh,
and they got Rome Dunze now, yeah.
And Keenan Allen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Get ready to roll, because these young quarterbacks and these dynamite receivers are gonna. Remember, the NFC North used to be the slothy division, like NFC Norris, black and blue. It was like, it's going to be crazy this year. I'm looking forward to all these games. It's going to be a fantastic season. But we got Jefferson. He was never going to leave, and I don't see any. I mean, what are the backlashes of downfall people are talking about? That you can't spend that kind of money or something?
Because you paid money for a wide receiver. And you're right. JRP said, I didn't mean Darnell Mooney. I meant Rome Dunze, the guy they just drafted. I know Mooney. I knew. I don't know what it is with me and either saying wrong names or forgetting names tonight. But yeah.
You're old, Ted.
I am. I'm very old. I'm tired. Long trip. But either way. But yeah, thank you for the correction, JRP. It was not Darnell Mooney. Anyways, but yeah, a lot of people think paying a wide receiver essentially top tier quarterback or top 15, 16 quarterback money is a dumb move. And like maybe normally if it's not just Jefferson or it's not Jamar Chase, if it was Christian Kirk in Jacksonville, I could maybe make that argument. I could maybe see that.
Thanks, Norpheus.
Oh, Northfield. Thank you, Ruby, for my prize. Here's to help the next prize, next lucky winner. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
But it's kind of like.
Huh?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Norpheus is one of the best Viking fans I know. That guy is all purple all the time. Thank you for the donation.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's kind of like what you guys were talking about earlier. It wasn't, a decade or so ago, it was a running back league. The Vikings had Adrian Peterson. The offense ran through Adrian Peterson, and they made Adrian Peterson the highest paid running back in the league. And now everything has evolved. It's more of a passing league. It's centered around wide receivers. You need to have at least 2 good wide receivers now, if not 3, to be competitive. And so now the Vikings have adjusted, and now Justin Jefferson is the highest paid wide receiver in the league. And there was at least one person that pointed out that it's important to note that Jefferson is not just the highest paid wide receiver in the league. He is also the highest paid non-quarterback. because he managed to surpass Joey Bosa, who was at 34 million as far as that goes. So
Bosas suck. All the Bosas suck.
I'm gonna let you guys fight that out.
You're just pissed because the Bosas dominated Michigan when they were there.
You're just mad because Jeffrey Dahmer went to your school. Eat that up.
You're just mad because Ted Kaczynski was a Unabomber and Michigan gave him a freaking doctorate.
He is, but he's the bomb though, isn't he?
Yeah, that's Dr. Unabomber to you. I mean, dang. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I'm glad
I'm loving these comments tonight. We're getting great comments. Got a couple donations rolling in. We are on fire tonight.
I'm glad I went to one of them online schools. I don't have to worry about these kind of shenanigans with my
You went to an online school?
I did. I got my bachelor's through a online degree. But yeah.
Oh, I think that's where Brian Kelly's coaching now, right? Online.
Yeah, University of Phoenix, I think, is where he's at now. Or
the Hoenix.
Yeah. Jesus.
So before the big JJ extension news, another good piece of news. I think it happened while I was up in Canada. The Vikings re-signed Dalton Risner too to I think another 1-year deal. So
yep.
I was pretty happy about that. I like Blake Randall. I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid backup, like at one of those super sub offensive linemen that can play short term, multiple positions. But I was not comfortable with him going in to be the starting left guard.
No.
I am fired up that they got Risner, and I'm glad the Vikings kind of came to their senses and re-signed him, because I thought he brought a lot more than just talent to the Vikings last year. It just seemed like he was a good locker room guy, good character guy, like the Vikings were looking for, along with JJ. I'm telling you, man, I work with some millennials in my office, and when things are going good at work, they just kind of turn around and they say, Ted, right now the vibes are immaculate. And I'm just saying the vibes are immaculate with this team right now.
The vibes
are immaculate right now. I'm digging it.
Hard to argue about the vibes there, huh?
Am I wrong?
No.
Yeah.
No, I want to say this though. As we get into the Risner thing, which I think is a good signing, because now our offensive line has got really good depth, whether he starts or not, or Brandel starts. I wanted to say, if you want to tune into some good info about Dalton Risner, go back to the last Sunday's 2 old blogger shows with David Stefano and Darren Campbell. It's a great show. Lots of info every week.
Yeah.
Those guys did a Risner breakdown, and it is fantastic. They talked about, how he suffers in the run a little bit, pass blocker, what his grades are. They totally did a good breakdown. But Darren and Dave over at 2 old bloggers, that was really, really, really well done. So go back and watch that on YouTube on the, First and Skull Network over there.
Yep. Yeah, that's the one.
But yeah, they did a really, really good job. I like the signing, Ted, because it gives us, Brandel, and we got 2 good guys. I mean, Lord knows we have good depth, Chris Gates, at offensive line.
I mean, and like we said, Brandel is one of those people who can back up at just about any position. Because I mean, he's played the guard spots. When Darisaw had concussion issues a couple years ago, he stepped in at tackle. So yeah, he can feasibly back up at 4 of the 5 spots on the offensive line. And if he's going to be your top backup on the offensive line, you can do a hell of a lot worse than that. I mean, I think they still. Did they bring back David Quessenberry for another?
Yeah,
they did. Back. So they got him to back up at tackle. They're going to have some decent depth pieces, because those guys have gotten some starts because of injuries and whatnot. So yeah, we've waited so long for the Vikings to get the offensive line figured out. We've always said that they have the tackles figured out now that Darisaw and O'Neal are here for a while. But they might finally be starting to get the interior figured out too. And if that happens, this offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Listen. They are banking on. They know that Risner had kind of a down year, especially run blocking. But he's going to be better next year, like he was in Denver. It's going to revert back to those numbers. I think if they didn't have faith in him, Chris, they wouldn't have re-signed him, Ted.
No, guys, I don't think so.
I mean, and you got to figure.
They know he's going to be better than what he was last year. He had kind of a down.
You got to figure last year. I don't think Risner was in camp with anyone. He was a free agent. He didn't go through training camp.
Nope.
He signed with the Vikings in about week 3 or week 4, and then when the Vikings traded Ezra Cleveland away, they just plugged him into the starting lineup and said, "Here, go." And now he's going to get the off-season program. He's going to get all that, get an opportunity to work in with the first team a little bit more. So yeah, I think he's going to be significantly better this year too.
Real quick, as always, if you want to be eligible to win a prize at the end of our show, just make a comment. Ruby just posted the Vikings First and Skol channel that Drew was just talking about for two old bloggers, Dave and Darren, along with Tyler Fornes, the real Forno. They got some great content, and it's not a lot of. I mean, well, Forno does like 8 jillion mock drafts, but that's just kind of his thing. But that's okay. Tyler's a good dude. We love Tyler. I just like to make fun of him. He has, I don't know if you noticed, Tyler has golden long flowing locks. I mean, it's his hair vibes are immaculate. Tyler's hair vibes are absolutely immaculate. I'm just jealous because I have no hair.
He makes Fabio look like Edward Scissorhands when it comes to hairdo.
He's like the lost Hemsworth brother at this point. That's yeah. I mean, the Hemsworth kids don't have quite the beard that he does, but
you know what, Forno, that guy loves football, though.
I know he does.
Absolutely,
he's a football junkie, and that's all that matters. All right, Drew, you were talking earlier. Chris Young made a comment about depth, and you were talking about depth with the Risner signing. Chris Young said, "Hey, the Risner signing creates depth for potential trades for picks. See Ezra Cleveland." And I think that's something we're talking about real quick because the Vikings. They've got their first round pick next year. We talked, on draft night, we talked about that. But because of the trade for Dallas Turner, or the trade on draft night to move up to get Dallas Turner, the Vikings do not have a second, third, or fourth round pick, I believe. Am I right on that, or is it second, third round?
That is accurate.
So I would think next year going into the draft, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is going to be looking to try and accumulate draft picks. And this could be a situation that will allow something like that to potentially happen. Now, I don't think you're going to get a 2, 3, or 4 for a guy like David Quessenberry or Blake Randall or anything like that. But having more picks, even in the later rounds, you could possibly bundle them to get into the fourth round, maybe late third round. They're probably going to get 1 or 2 comp picks in the third round. So I just think it's, not only the talent and character that Risner brings to the team. When you look at it from that perspective, Chris, it's also a really solid move for the Vikings.
It is. I mean, like you said, the Vikings are probably going to get a third for losing Kirk Cousins. So that'll mean they have 4 picks next year. They've got their first, they've got that compensatory third, and a couple of fifth rounders, and they might have another one coming too. I'd have to dig through and look it up, but. Yeah, they're gonna have to find some draft picks from somewhere. And like we said, they've got a ton of free agency money that they're going to be sitting on to try to bolster the roster a little bit. But you can't just completely ignore the draft or anything like that. And I don't think the Vikings are going to do that. But yeah, they're going to have to do something. And like you said, when you have depth guys like that, you can get some kind of mid-round, late-round picks that you can take shots on guys at and see how things work out there. But yeah, if the Vikings can continue developing depth at some of these spots, that's going to be good for them.
Drew, one last thing I want to talk about, and we'll kind of try and keep this a little bit shorter tonight than we usually do.
That's what she said.
Which is what she said. God, you beat me to that. There was I saw an interview or a couple comments on Twitter a couple days ago about. It was an interview with T.J. Hawkinson, and he was very evasive, I guess would probably be the best word, about when he will be ready to play. He was asked about the Vikings game in London, which I think is week 4 or 5 on the schedule. I'd have to look it up. Week 5.
Yeah, week 5.
And he wasn't sure. And the Vikings signed Robert Tonyan. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago before I went on my vacation. What a quality signing I think he will be. And I think that just goes into another reason why the Vikings were so why getting Justin Jefferson re-signed was such an important thing, because you're going to be without a guy like TJ Hawkinson for an undetermined part of the beginning of next season, Drew. And I just think it made it even more important that getting Jefferson re-signed was a huge priority for the Vikings this offseason.
Absolutely. You don't want to lose a weapon like Hawkinson. And I remember when the Vikings got him and acquired him, remember how the offense just changed. It just completely went into full blossom mode. I'm looking forward to him coming back. I hope he waits till he's healthy, because some guys come back too soon in terms of knees and ankles, and then they end up being out for an extended period of time. But Hawkinson is a grade A tight end, and it's only going to get bolstered when I'm be honest, I'm looking at like week 10, guys, 10 or 11. I don't think he's going to be back before that. And that's fine, because the Vikings are going to find ways to win football games, but that makes it ever more important than you get Jefferson back. You're right, Ted. I mean, the Vikings have the weapons, especially with the receiving skills of Aaron Jones. That's something people are overlooking.
Yep.
Aaron Jones is a weapon that Madison wasn't out of the backfield. And I think if the Vikings can figure out how to run a decent screen game in this system, I don't know what's so hard about running a screen game, Ted, but I think that is going to be the biggest surprise weapon that we have, is Aaron Jones' receiving skills. Is also going to pick up the pace from where we lack with Hawkinson. But I expect Tanyan's going to be a big part of it. And also, just to talk about I think the most improved area of the Vikings will be Ingram and Risner on the offensive line. People they're going to be the interior of that offensive line starting to get fixed. And I don't want to draw back to the other conversation, but Aaron Jones is going to provide a lot. Being he can stay healthy, that's going to be a weapon out of the backfield that the Vikings should start using, I think.
Yeah. And Chris, I think you mentioned it earlier with Risner not being in with the Vikings for the offseason program. Drew, I agree with you. I think you're going to see a big difference in Risner this in 2024, just because he'll be here for the entire offseason. Man, I'm excited about this team. I don't know why people just look at this team and are down. I think the defense is going to be better overall. I mean, they lost a couple of key players in Daniil Hunter. But I think overall they're going to be better because of the overall talent they signed. We talked about this earlier. Somebody, who was it? I just saw it. Said, man, I just missed a comment about wanting to throw a laser. Somebody said they couldn't wait to see Sam Darnold throw a laser to JJ. You know what I'm excited for? I'm excited for the JJ to JJ connection for the next, I want to say decade, because I know Drew hates it when you say you could draft this guy and plug him in at this position for a decade. But, man, that's what I want to see happen. JJ McCarthy to Justin Jefferson for the next 10 years. That's me.
I'd love to see that too. But, guys staying together on the team 10 years. I mean, this isn't like Krause and Eller and Hilgenberg. I mean, those days are gone.
Nope.
Which I know I talk a lot about it, but I miss those days of football.
Well, yeah, it's a new era, though, and I think we are on the verge. We've said it before. I think we were on the verge of a very exciting era for the Vikings. It reminds me of the era, like right when Bud Grant got hired.
Right.
You could see there was talent on this team, but they just needed somebody to bring that talent together and take it to the next level. And I think the Vikings are right there, man. It all hinges on can the Vikings develop JJ McCarthy? If they can, yeah.
We need a couple good drafts, and we need Paul Krause. Go get those guys, and I'll win you some games.
Yeah, I mean, if they can, yeah. If it all hinges on McCarthy. If they can develop McCarthy, this team is watch out, man. This team is going to be good. If not, we're going to be looking at a new quarterback draft and a new coach and a new GM in 2 or 3 years. But whatever. But let's.
Can I throw a question out to you guys and maybe the people in the chat?
Nope. Spin the wheel. Let's go, Ruby. Show's over.
No. I want to ask. And I don't mean to be a buzzkill or bring anything down. I don't want to be like Darren Downer, but I want to ask you guys and the people in the chat, what right now, currently, what are your main concerns about the Vikings? And we talk about Jefferson. We're all happy with the offensive weapons, but I'd like to get a couple ideas on where you think the Vikings will be susceptible to problems.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, the secondary is still a bit of a question mark. I know they're solid at safety with Harrison Smith and Cameron Bynum and Josh Metellus doing, whatever Brian Flores tells them to do. But, the cornerback room is still really young. I know they brought in Shaq Griffin to be kind of a veteran presence, and Byron Murphy was solid until he got hurt last year. But, yeah, I think the corners, unless Andrew Booth all of a sudden has a real renaissance. I mean, he was decent enough at the end of last season if he can continue building that up a little bit. But the cornerback position kind of scares me. And yeah, I believe a couple of folks have pointed out the interior of the defensive line as well. I love Harrison Phillips, but he's not the traditional nose tackle ass kicking guy that they need in the middle of the defense. So those are probably the two big sore spots as far as I can tell.
Last five comments were interior D-line comments that came through.
Yep, and that was going to be my answer. Interior defensive line. That's the one Achilles heel I see on this team right now. And like Chris says, I like Harrison Phillips, but he's not a true nose tackle. He had a good. I thought he played well last year, but I just hope that with the addition of Blake Cashman and Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard and Dallas Turner, that the pressure they'll be able to. The Vikings defense will be able to put on opposing quarterbacks will kind of help mask that. And I think both Blake Cashman and Van Ginkel are good run defenders as well. But that's the one thing that worries me on defense. I really like the rest of how the defense looks. Maybe maybe Jaquel and Roy can take a step. I mean, he's a big kid. He's a big guy, and maybe he can make that step this year, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the one thing for me. What about you, Drew?
The interior of the defensive line is, that's got to be first and foremost. I'm with everybody else in the chat room, and that's why we have the smartest fans on this show, because they know exactly what's going on. I just think that was a position the Vikings wanted to address, Ted, but just couldn't get them all done this year. You can't get every single position done. You can't. Quarterback and then Dallas Turner, those are positions that were really of need. So,
and I will say, and I will say, like you you kind of just hit on it. I will say, of all the things they had to prioritize, they got the most important positions taken care of.
I'm gonna tell you this though: the Vikings get on a run this year before November. I mean, if they're really making noise in the NFC, don't be surprised. I would love to see a trade for a really reputable nose tackle, no matter what we got to give up for him. If the Vikings are making a run, that would be a good pickup before the trade deadline, I think, depending on how the first 6 or 7, 8 games are to that point. But keep an eye out for that. That might be something in the plan that Kwesi and KOC have talked about right now, saying we know we have a problem there, but if we get rolling, we'll take care of it.
Yeah. And our good friend Rhino from Vikings Uncensored says that the Vikings thought they were getting Wilkins, but the Raiders outbid them at the last second. Yeah, that was a big free agent target for the Minnesota Vikings. Christian Wilkins. I wanted to say, it's just one of those nights for me. I want to say Dominique Wilkins, the former Atlanta Hawks great in the NBA back in the 80s.
Imagine that guy in the slam dunk contest. That guy was awesome.
But Christian Wilkins, that was a guy the Vikings went hard in the paint for. But the Raiders, I think the Raiders way overpaid for him for what it's worth. Yep. But yeah, he ended up going to Vegas. All right. So yeah, I think, boys, we are kind of getting to the end of this. One more quick announcement. Obviously, we did not have a show this past week, but we are back in studio this week, and we will be back this weekend with another studio show. We'll kind of recap the Jefferson extension, and we'll talk about everything else that's going on and about how awesome JJ McCarthy looks in off-season OTAs, and we'll probably throw up some highlights of JJ to JJ in camp, and we will get way overly excited and give you wild overreactions and predictions. But that's what we do here at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. And Chris.
Also highlights of JJ tearing Ohio State a new gate game.
No, we're not going to do that. Well, I have no say over that. I mean, Toonses does. I got no say over that.
She never busts your balls about that.
There she is. Hi, Toonses. How are you?
Ready for the wheel?
We are. If you're ready, we are.
All right. Let me share my screen. I put everybody's name on there multiple times just to make it look better. Ready?
Wait. Before you spin it, I want Chris to read all those names real fast.
Yeah, best of luck with that. That's not happening.
Here we go. Oops.
All right.
Where's spin? Oh, there it is.
Invisible wheel. Sweet.
What if it said
G-Mac,
Jeffrey
make it
Dahmer?
randomer.
Skull
Troll. I think he's a past prize winner, isn't he?
Yeah, he
believe so.
played in our contest. He never missed a contest entry. Remember, we were doing all the fantasy football stuff.
Skull Troll, congratulations. Get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report, Drew at Ted, gmail.com. She'll send you a link to the Vikings Report prize vault, which is more closely guarded than Fort Knox, and it's probably more valuable at this point since this country is $8 jillion in debt. We are debt-free here at Vikings Report. Just point that out.
We are debt-free.
All righty.
Brain cell free.
Drew, we'll give you last words. Chris, last words. Then we'll close this show up for the night.
JJ, Vikings, Super Bowl. Let's go. As your grandson said, Ted texted his grandson. His grandson answered, let's go. So I'm with Grayson. I'm with Grayson on all this. And I hope ESAT Nation could just go off in the sunset and then do whatever they got to do, because everything doesn't suck all the time. The Vikings are making a run, not only have a season this year, but making a dynasty run. They were trying to build something that'll last more than one season. So tune in for our studio show at the end of the week. Thank you all for tuning in. I love the comments, man. We had a great group of people. Congrats to the prize winners, and Justin Jefferson here for the next foreseeable future. What about you?
Our long, regionally specific nightmare is finally over with. We don't have to hear any more drama about a Justin Jefferson contract extension for the next 3 or 4 years until he completely tears it up and we have to re-sign him again. But it's a good day to be a Vikings fan, and that's all you can say about it, because Justin Jefferson's here for the next 5 years. Who can have any issues with that?
Apparently some people can, but not me. Do the gritty, folks. Justin Jefferson is going to remain a Vikings for at least the next 4 years. I'm telling you, I have not been this excited about the future of this team since the Vikings signed Brett Favre in 2009. Honestly, I am fired up about the direction this team is going. I think Minnesota sports in general is on the rise, and it's going to be led by J.J. McCarthy and Anthony Edwards. But that remains to be seen. So,
what about Louis Sheen? Louis Sheen hasn't done Louis Sheen.
Jesus.
Shut up.
By the way, you're wrong about Caitlin Clark too, Ted. She's going to leave the NBA.
No, I'm not. She's a fad. She's a fad like a pet rock. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Caitlin Clark's the real deal.
No, I'm not. No, she is.
Okay, we'll keep a running bet on that.
We'll talk about this later. But look, like I said, we will be in studio, and we will be back with another studio show of Vikings Report with Drew and Ted and Chris this weekend. So for Chris, for Drew, for Toonses, go Vikings.